recruiting right now, as second signing day took place yesterday, meaning that the full picture of this 2021 class, for the most part, is now clear. Obviously LSU has 3 spots left. I think somebody like Clemson might have 6 left. So there are still grad transfers and other spots left in each class to be kind of one of my favorite terms ever from Tolkien when Bilbo Baggins talks about filling in the corners, right? Just getting a little more food in you there to fill in the corners. That's what's left to do. But when you look at yesterday, when it's all said and done after second signing day, LSU turns in its 3rd top 5 class in a row under Ed Orgeron. That is a huge accomplishment. Now, where this is going to get a bit awkward is, like everything else in college football, and especially with LSU, you're going to compare yourself to Alabama. That is a recipe for insanity. And we will get to that, because the bottom line is that not only are you not on Alabama's level of recruiting, there is literally no one on Alabama's level of recruiting. In fact, there has been no one all time on Alabama's level of recruiting when you look at this class. So we'll get to that. But first, I do want to focus in on what LSU did, because like I said, I think there's that temptation to be overly negative about this class because of how it rates or compares relative to who you view as your arch rival. So 3rd top 10, 3rd top 5 class in a row under Ed Orgeron. To me, that is a fulfillment of the Ed O recruiting promise, right? And we've always said that if you're in the top 5, really, what's the difference between 3 and 2? Between 4 and 1, there's a difference, but it's pretty negligible, right? That may not exactly be the case this year, but if you're in the top 5, you're still championship relevant. And don't take my word for it. Let's just look at the top 11 teams here. Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, Oregon, Texas A&M, USC, Notre Dame, Michigan. Okay, Harbaugh, see that extension. And then Oklahoma, checking in at number 11. These are the most relevant teams in college football for a reason. Year in and year out, the bottom line is that they just bring in the most talent. And so it makes sense. So, there's a reason why every team that I just mentioned, if you're looking around the country at the Power 5, there's a reason why those are all the teams that are vying for the Power 5 championships, because they just have the best players. It's not that hard to wrap your head around, right? And so you cannot fall off on recruiting, and LSU has not. Again, yes, Bama's on another level, but you can't be dismissive of what LSU has done here. And when you look at having 3 top 5 classes in a row, I think it's one of the reasons why these new coaches, Durante Jones, Blake Baker, Andre Carter, Jake Peets, DJ Mangus, it's one of the reasons why they should be so excited. Regardless of the 5-5 record last year, if you have 3 top 5 classes in a row, you have the talent to be championship relevant. I'm not saying you're going to win a championship, but you should vie for them, okay? New Year's 6. It's why when I look at this LSU schedule, if you want to tell me that 10-2 is the expectation, should be the expectation, I would fall right in line with that and agree with that. There's the kind of hedging the bet side of me that always wants to err on the side of maybe being a bit more conservative with predictions. And so 9-3 is probably the easy way out. Makes the most sense if you want to allow yourself room for error. But if you want to hold this program to a standard that you arguably should, especially with those top 3 classes, 10-2, that feels like the goal. And it's because of the players that you have. And look, while this LSU class isn't the greatest from an O-line standpoint, you did mitigate that damage by getting Machianole to join before second signing day. Also, by getting the entire O-line to return. And now when you look at the 2022 O-line, you feel like you're going to get a lot of juice there. So the O-line is probably the weakest portion of this class, but the running back room that is coming in is absolutely elite. And that adds to a group that is already elite. That already has the potential, I should say, to be very good with TDP and John Emery and company. You add to a wide receiver room that is now just overwhelming. The cup runneth over with wide receiver talent at LSU right now. You potentially add Brian Thomas Jr. to that. He did not sign yesterday, so that's an ongoing saga that I'll kind of keep an eye on over the next few weeks. But the group that I really want to focus in on, talk about here, is the defensive line. Because when you think about the most championship relevant teams at LSU, when you think about the best teams at LSU, where do you go back to? You go back to the defensive line, right? It kind of all traces back in my mind. Well, I mean, if you want to go all the way back, like Chad Lavallee in 03, I think, along with like Marcus Spears and company, imprinted on a lot of young kids my age. I'm about to be 32 here in a week. You could even then fast forward to like Glenn Dorsey and those 2007 lines with Tyson Jackson and Kiki Pittman, and then you go a bit further and you get into the Michael Brockers, Kiki Mingo, Sam Montgomery defensive lines, Benny Logan, my guy Smoke. And so for a while there, when LSU was vying for national championships, one in every 4 years, the defensive line was at the heart of the success. And then for whatever reason, in the kind of post-Brockers age, you started to fall off a bit to where, when was the low point? And this is getting very in the weeds for, the hardcore LSU fans. The low point was probably that one Florida game where I think Christian Lacouture and company had to play about 90-something% of the snaps. You had pretty good talent, I guess, but you had no depth whatsoever. And then it's been a slow, long haul to get back to that elite level. And then you even hit a bit of a speed bump switching from the three-man front to the four-man front where you lost guys like Tyler Shelvin and you lost Apu Ika. But it looks like you're finally back to that championship level defensive line. I mean, right? So you add to a line that already has everyone returning and has a lot of strengths to begin with, right? I love Neil Farrell and Glenn Logan in the middle coming back for another senior year. That experience will be critical. Jaquelin Roy really turned a corner against Florida, and he carried that through to Ole Miss. I think he's going to carry that through to next year, expecting big things from Jaquelin Roy. Ali Gay got better and better and better as the season went on. He struggled in run support early on. How'd he end the year? Forcing a fumble with perfect technique on a run play to win you the Ole Miss game, right? And we all know what he can do pass rushing. We all know what B.J. Ojulari can do pass rushing off of the edge. You still have those potential guys like Jacoby and Guillory in that mix as well. So you had a lot of talent to begin with on that defensive line, and now you add Mason Smith, who feels like that Glenn Dorsey type of character. They can come in there and be impactful from day one and go on to truly dominate by year three. And then you had 3 4-star defensive ends in Landon Jackson, Bryce Langston, and Savion Jones. So, again, this looks like a return to the lines of yore. And what better position group is LSU better positioned to have great success with? I mean, this is what Ed Orgeron does. For all the talk of his resume when he got the job at LSU, the head coaching portion of it was what it was. But I think he had like 10 first-round defensive linemen that he had coached and developed or something along those lines. And now you add Andre Carter to the mix, a guy who did it for 13 years at the NFL level, especially when it comes to the pass rush, the techniques, and a guy who has 80 sacks on the NFL level. Things that he can teach Ali Gay, B.J. Ojulari, Andre Anthony, these 3 new defensive ends. So, yeah, this LSU defense, especially if you can get the back end fixed, which I expect under Durante Jones this year, this LSU defense could get back to be not just good, but great, be one of the top units in the country, especially when it comes to causing havoc. So a great class in the trenches on that side of the ball and a great class overall. Now, unfortunately, on the other side of the docket, the rich have only gotten richer. I was going to play part of the Saban pitch here. I don't think we need to, Moose. We've gone a bit long-winded. I think everybody probably heard it. But Alabama, again, finishes with the number 1 class of recruiting. I don't know if many of you realize this. They also literally finished with the number 1 class in modern recruiting history. Now, if we want to go out of our way to try to tarnish that, the class they beat was 2010 Florida. Will Muschamp did nothing with 2010 Florida. I don't know that we can expect the same failure out of Nick Saban, unfortunately. But for what it's worth, 2010 Florida was the previous greatest class, right? So these ratings don't always mean everything, I guess. But in the 247 ratings, Bama has 7 5-stars, including 2 offensive tackles that rank 2nd and 5th overall for all players. They have 2 5-star defensive linemen that are top 25 overall. Out of the top 60 recruits, Bama got 11 of them. What kind of sense does that make? 11 of the top 60. They have 16 4 stars. So, yeah, look, I get it. It's hard to not feel a bit disheartened by all of this. as the gap only continues to widen between Saban and the rest of college football. Musso, you gave me a couple little things to add a little spice that makes the defensive recruits alone, you said, would rank 9th in the country if you were to have them as a class?
That's Brian Fisher tweeted that out yesterday. And then the offenses, so 9th alone just for defensive recruits, which is absurd. And then their offensive recruits would rank 14th. If they were their own class, that would be the number 14 class in the country.
Well.
Which is also absurd.
Yeah, look, this goes back to the self-feeding, self-sustaining, perpetual motion machine of success that Alabama has created. Championships make it easier to recruit better players make it easier to win championships. So then how do you beat them? Because it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to beat them year in and year out, right? You got to beat them when you can. You got to take your opportunities. And what's it going to take? On top of being very good everywhere, it's going to take a transcendent type of quarterback. And if you look to this year, look, when we went through the schedule, I have it chalked up as a loss, but LSU's maybe got a little hope in that regard. There's going to be some turnover on Alabama, though I think offensively they could get even better post-Mac Jones, which is kind of scary. But LSU has a quarterback room that I like better than I have in years. But, yeah, I don't know, man. Unfortunately for me, this just kind of drives home that if you're going to constantly compare yourself relative to Alabama, I feel like it's just a recipe for insanity. Like you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be pleased. And then the extra crap in your spice is the fact that it comes on the same day that Alabama beats your ass in basketball once again. Rising tide rises all ships, I guess, or whatever they say. So I say that not to discourage you. I say that to let's just be real and objective about the situation, okay? Alabama continues to outclips just everybody, but that does not take away from the excellent job that LSU has done turning in their 3rd top 5 class in a row, a class that should at least make you championship relevant going forward. All right, with us going forward, let's get away from all this depressing Bama garbage, and let's look to the table, to the food table, as Executive Chef Michael Johnson stops by, answers all your Munchies questions. Keep it locked right here on Off the Bench, 104.5, 100.3, and 94.7 ESPN.